things are made from one, and in the end, all things return to one.
In other words, one is all.
Indeed, and all is one as well.
All is ultimately of the one. So if all is not included in the one, then all is nothing.
You have passed.
How was the vibrate? Y'all know what it is. Speaking to the trickster energy, and how the trickster energy basically helps to balance things out, to, restore balance. And it helps to restore balance. It may help to restore balance in what may seem like a twisted and harmful way. Because again, when we think about this world, it's like, dang, there's so many people suffering, or is this and that going on, or, even dealing with the paradox of, it's inside of me, but then there's also things outside of me, and, how to embrace harmony and oneness, but at the same time, I gotta set boundaries. Everything is interconnected, but then at the same time, I gotta make sure I take care of my space and pay attention to what I'm focusing on. You know what I'm saying? And ultimately, the story of Job in the Bible basically, is like if you had to make a summary, without going too deep into details about the whole situation, the story of Job is the story of this earth plane existence, in the sense of source energy, but looking at ourselves as source on the human experience. So not necessarily like source energy is putting us through this, but as a part of source energy, we chose this experience in order to, recalibrate and have an experience where, we learn how to, be integral and harmonize and balance our being in essence. And I look at it as the story of Job and the storylines that, in essence, you see it in most like shows with angels and demons, or most shows where it's like this energy of like, as an angel, you think you all high and mighty, or as God, you think you all high and mighty. But what if you had to experience this? I bet you wouldn't be so high and mighty after going through this experience. And then that energy of like bet, you know what I'm saying? Literally like bet, like gambling, like a game, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I bet I could, live in a world that's this paradoxical and this, you could say this low in vibration, and I could go through that and still come out, pure and, not hating nobody and this and that. It's like, all right, bet, and you come into this world and you see that, all right, it was tougher than, what I thought. And hence why, souls or spirits who are able to endure this experience and make it out in one piece, literally like the show One Piece, the anime show, make it out in one piece, with that wholeness and that harmony and that understanding of balance. Those souls are considered, like strong, warrior, wise, souls or beings or spirits, whatever name you want to attach to it, which they are uniquely different. But let's just say for, the sake of letting you sort that out yourself, as far as like the difference between a soul and spirit and being and, But ultimately, you know what I'm saying, it's for beings to, you know, gain that wisdom. And that's why I'm saying, like, those beings who are able to endure, you know, and maintain that understanding, wisdom, and harmony, you know, are considered like those, you know, again, those warrior, strong, you know, beings. And again, the story of Job was literally like where, you know, in the archetypical design of the story, not who's who in the actual story. And what I mean by that, you know, could say, for instance, what's considered God in the Bible, in essence, is the, you know, God and the devil in the Bible are kind of one and the same, you know, and that's literally like the whole situation. But again, like, God in Christianity is Yahweh, you know, Yadalabart, and God in Christianity doesn't represent like that primordial mother energy, or that, you know, primordial more androgynous slash, you know, feminine or mother energy. You know, it represents the sun energy, you know, and an angry sun at that, you know, a jealous sun, you know, a jealous God, you know what I'm saying, is in Christianity. So not getting into the particulars of that, what I'm saying is like just looking at the archetypical story of Job, you know, and again, God and the devil, in the sense of like, just literally like, all right, Job was considered one of the, you know, best, what's the word for, you know, one of the humans or people who was just so in alignment with God. Like, this was like, if you want to see the prime example of what it looks like to be somebody who has a high level of faith in God and a high level of spiritual practices that align with God, Job was that example. And so, you know, the devil came to the devil came to God and was like, hey, since you think you so strong and powerful, you know what I'm saying, and the people who align with you is, you know, never gonna turn away from you, you know, let me put Job to the test. Let me see if I put Job through my test, if Job gonna still be that faithful to you, God. You know what I'm saying? And so God, you know, which kind of shows like, you know, the connected energy of, you know, God and the devil, in essence, like the same. You know, God was like, all right, put Job to the test. And not going through all the little details, but, you know, but just in short, you know, Job family members was caused to die or transition, you know, certain animals, or should I say, you know, his resources was debilitated or taken away, so he wasn't able to feed himself to the maximum. He again lost family members, but just all kind of tragic things started happening to Job. But after each situation, he still kind of kept maintaining that trust in God, you know, like, hey, things will work out no matter what, you know. And that's the story, you know, as a whole, of us being in this realm. And being in this realm is also, again, we're inside of a being. And I gave those three examples, you know, being inside of a being inside of a jail, being in school. Those three analogies are like the main three analogies of being in this realm, you know, because it is a school, you know. Because just like Job was tested, you know, when you're tested, you're in school, you know, it's a test, it's a quiz, pop quiz is a test, you know, it's school, you know. It's also being in a prison because, you know, in essence, when you're in here, you know, it's not like, oh, because say, for instance, the example of it being like a prison is the essence of, like, say, for instance, once we do figure out what this realm is and how it works, it's not like you're able to, like, all right, bam, snap my finger and get out. It's almost like you're trapped, like, you know, like you can't just, like, you know, and people have attempted to quote unquote leave through, you know, quote unquote suicide, or, you know, like causing themselves to transition. But ultimately, you know, in most cases, they end up finding out, like, you know, they end up having to reincarnate or go back into class, you know, having to repeat that cycle or repeat that class again, you know, like going back to the 5th grade. If you didn't learn long division, it's like, oh, you got to come back to 5th grade. You didn't really see this lesson, you know. But again, prison, school, and then inside of another being. And you can see that truth through the law of correspondence, you know. I used the movie Osmosis Jones. And then they did create a show called Cells at Work. It was like a little Japanese anime or something of that nature, where it personified blood cells and basically turned the inside of a body like into a city. And same thing with Osmosis Jones. Osmosis Jones was a white blood cell, you know, personified as a police, because in essence, white blood cells in the body like police the health of the body. So Osmosis Jones was a police hunting down a virus, you know what I'm saying? But with the law of correspondence, and the law of correspondence is from the 7 universal laws, or the 7 hermetic principles. And, you know, again, it states simply, as above, so below, as within, so without, as it is inside our body, it is outside of our body, as it is on the smallest levels of our existence, it is on the biggest levels of our existence. You know what I'm saying? So the way that particles operate inside of an atom or inside of a cell is the same way that they operate within our human experience, and then the same way it appears to operate externally in the cosmos. In the cosmos, you know, as far as the stars, constellations, planets, you know what I'm saying, galaxies, those bodies, again, operate just like the microcosm of the, you know, again, the cells, the atoms inside of our body, you know, just like, you know, again, Osmosis Jones. All Osmosis Jones knows I'm a cop, you know, for the city of, you know, I forgot what was the name of the person that they were in, but, you know, that was the name of the city, you know, was the name of the person. So again, all that white blood cell knows, like, hey, I'm a policeman of a long line of policemen. My dad was a policeman, or a white blood cell, you know. And again, just like a human could be like, oh, you know, I'm a human and I do this and that, but it could also be like a cell in a body, you know what I'm saying? Again, law of correspondence. And with being inside of another being, as I'm saying, you know, also seeing it as being inside of this trickster being, you know what I'm saying? For the most part, we are inside of this, you know, trickster being, in essence, you know. Now, I've gave multiple examples that could, you know, point to how that is true, you know. But, you know, again, seeing whether it's the story of Job, you know, and through these examples I just gave, and then, you know, again, understanding how, like, how this realm is about learning how to balance things out, you know, going through that test, you know, within the prison, within inside of a being, you know, because also, you know, look at it, you know, from the microcosmic level, like our cells in our body, like they're on certain levels, they're sentient energies within the cells in our body, to the point of, these cells operating when we're not consciously, like, like, say for instance, the example of, like, we're not consciously telling every cell in our body what to do right now. Like, hey, this cell, process this magnesium. Hey, process the 34% of hydrogen that came in from this water. Take the oxygen, send it here. Hey, liver, do this. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not micromanaging our whole body. So therefore, again, these cells are doing it themselves. You know what I'm saying? On certain levels. And of course, it's a balance. Learn the balance of it. The cells do operate on a level, with their own consciousness. And then there are moments when we, as the whole conscious, as, being the conscious that operates this whole body, or this, this little universe, you know what I'm saying? This physical universe. We can command certain operations, through our consciousness. Now, again, seeing or understanding why in mythology, the trickster energy, always shows up in a lot of cases. Like, it's kind of like Loki, in the way they depicted Loki in Marvel, in the sense of like how Loki is quote unquote the villain, but he's trying to become a hero. And then sometimes he gets upset because no matter what he could do, a lot of people just always look at him as the villain. Always look at him as this type of devil, you know what I'm saying? And, that's a part of the trickster archetype, you know what I'm saying? It's seen as this, like, quote unquote evil being, And again, yes, they do have, quote unquote, toxic aspects to this realm, but then they also have beautiful aspects to this realm. And I've used the analogies as well, again, just bringing it back to, the microcosm, macrocosm perspective, of our existence, of, rising through different worlds or different dimensions of existence, but more so let's just say different worlds. I gave the example one time of, say for instance, instead of being an actual cell in the body, in essence, you could be like the pranic energy or the chi energy within a body. Let's say again, like the chi energy, when we breathe, we generating that chi energy, and it goes through the root chakra, sacral chakra, all the way up to the crown. But then there's also, in essence, the fact that, yes, some chi energy moves from each chakra to each chakra with ease, but then some chi energy stays in the chakra to maintain that chakra. So although some energy from the root chakra will cycle up to the sacral and up to the solar plexus and so on, it's some energy of the root chakra that stays in the root chakra. Hence why the root chakra is even maintained, because there's certain energy that just stays there. Same for the sacral, solar plexus, heart chakra, again, throat. And that's the main 7, that most speak of. Of course, there's more nadis and meridians and chakras or whirls in the body, but those are kind of like you could say the common agreement, between most of us, with different spiritual perspectives. But again, you could see that analogy as well with the book of Enoch and with astrology, you know, also, whereas like it talked about like certain angels or certain beings being trapped in certain worlds, you know, until they like learn a lesson and liberate themselves from that world. So again, you could be trapped in your root chakra, you know, until you learn what you need to learn within your root chakra, or you be trapped in your sacral chakra until you learn what you need to learn in your sacral chakra. You know what I'm saying? Are you trapped continuously having to understand the Capricorn archetype because you don't understand the Capricorn archetype? Are you trapped trying to understand the Taurus archetype because you don't really understand the Taurus archetype? You know what I'm saying? And also the connection with the children, you know, in the background, because also the being that we in is like a child in essence, you know. Hence why one of the most popular things in this realm is, you know, storytelling. You know what I'm saying? Because as children, man, we love stories. You know what I'm saying? You know, we love, again, like the anime, the Marvel, the comic books, or mythological stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something we value. And that's a part of being in this being as well, you know. But ultimately, being inside of this world, being inside of this being, and why tricksters are also depicted as, again, like, although they may come off or be depicted just as much as they're depicted as the problem or the quote-unquote devil, they're also depicted as, you know, in the long run, you know, a being that end up helping everybody. You know what I'm saying? But it's not from the fake helping, you know, and I say the fake helping from the sense of like, you know, the Prometheus stories or different trickster stories, whereas like, you know, the trickster created the world, or say for instance, you know, it could also be the Brahmin story, Yadala broad story from Gnostic scriptures, but how this trickster created the world, but then like, say for instance, created certain harmful aspects in the world that was a little too harmful, you know, and then presents itself as a savior. Like, here it is, I'm gonna save you from these things, you know. Not that sense, because there's a difference between us, or should I say the trickster, helping us through, again, presenting us with these lessons of understanding balance, you know, understanding how to hold ourselves accountable and not blame that trickster deity, and understand how we're creating our experience and how to have accountability for that, and how to, you know, learn how to create that balance or harmony or integrity within our being. There's a difference between that and then, again, because what's not realized is like the scapegoat, the external anything external, because that's what we're here to learn, like the internal aspect of not blaming anything for our experience, you know. Hence why it's important to, you know, understand karma and how what we've experiencing, like, again, like whatever traumas we experience in our life, for the most part, is a continuation of some unlearned lesson or some unhealed trauma from a past life situation. But what I was going to say is, you know, realizing that the external scapegoat, you know, and hence why the goat is depicted as quote unquote the devil in a lot of cases, that the quote unquote scapegoat, you know, is also the external savior, you know, which are one and the same, you know, in the sense of like blaming somebody. And it's important. This is a key aspect that I never really said in a video, You know, I'm almost like kind of having an aha moment within the video, because I never said this before in this particular manner all at once. You know, the scapegoat, aka blaming somebody or looking for somebody outside of you to blame, is not gonna give you that spiritual transformation, you know what I'm saying, and true awareness and understanding. And then also looking for external savior, it's not going to get you that true spiritual transformation. It's through holding yourself accountable and the balance of not blaming or scapegoat anybody and not looking for nobody else to save you either. You know what I'm saying? Which is very key. And you start to see like that's the whole trick, you know, the whole game or the whole trick to it as well, in the trickster being. That part. It is, you know what I'm saying? The trick is, again, like not getting caught up in looking for external scapegoat and not getting caught up in looking for external savior. And then that also brings it full circle into the perspective of like why some people may consider like, damn, that's evil to put somebody, you know, in a world or have a world where it's that tricky, or, you know what I'm saying, whereas, you know, like it's that tough to, you know, decipher things. But it's like, hey, if you are sourced the way you say you are sourced on the human experience, or if you are the supreme being that you say you are, you'll learn how to, you know, maintain that accountability and maintain your awareness of self, you know, maintain your memory of self through no matter how many lesson loops and amnesia, you know, no matter how many lesson loops and moments of amnesia you've been through, you remember who you are, then you deserve, again, like, then, you know, you deserve to, you know, call yourself, and not in an ego way, but just really see yourself as the supreme being that you are. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way that, you know, the trickster is the hero. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole trick to it. You know, again, like, you know, it's like not looking for the external scapegoat or savior. And hence why, again, the morning star in the Bible, you know, is considered to be, you know, Satan or Lucifer, and to be Jesus, you know, because that's kind of an indirect, you know, little clue to it being one and the same, you know what I'm saying? And again, not falling for the trick of, because say for instance, like somebody busts the windows on your house. It's almost like racketeering in essence. You know, somebody comes through and busts the windows, throw rocks at the windows of your house and break your windows. And that same person that threw the rocks to bust your window also pop up as the person who has a business where they fix glass. It's like, oh, not to worry, your savior is here. I could fix your glass. And it was the same person that threw the rocks at your glass. But then again, in that same analogy, as a human being in that situation, so not even bringing it cosmically, as a human being, you know, that goes through the experience of having a person throw rocks and bust their window, and then in the same notion come up and present themselves as somebody who could, you know, fix that window. If as a person, if you fall for that trick, the only person you have to blame is you. It's not to blame the person who threw the rock and then disguised themselves as where they were the antagonist and then disguised themselves as the hero. It's not their fault. I mean, yes, they performed the act of throwing a rock and then presenting themselves as the helper. But ultimately, you allowed yourself, you fell for it. You know what I'm saying? Literally fell for it. It was descended, you know what I'm saying? You fell, from your grace for blaming. You fell for it. You don't want to fall for it. And is in a standard about being able to, move any and everywhere, to be able to go into the lower chakras, aka descend, and be able to ascend. Descending and ascending from the root to the crown, and not stagnating in any of the chakras, being able to maintain that motion or maintain that balance, being able to take care of your physical aspects, take care of your physical being, and not getting stuck in the world of your root chakra and in survival mode or fear, like wondering like, oh, what I'm gonna do, and then you're just stuck in your root and not getting stuck in the crown of like, oh, forget the physical, it's all about spiritual, and I'm not going to eat food anymore because I'm truly just a spiritual being, even though I'm in this physical body. It's like, no, I take care of my spirit. I meditate, do my spiritual practices, lucid dream, connect with, the non-physical aspect of me. And then I also wake up in the morning and go take the trash out and make sure the quote-unquote bills are paid, which I ain't gonna say the bills are paid, but just make sure you're taking care of yourself, because some aspects of that shit, ain't really necessary, to pay for water and stuff like that. But that's also a part of the, like, again, you agree to come in this world in the state that it's in. So, you signed up to come into a world where they, charging you for water that should be free. But, ultimately, again, it's not about blaming the scapegoat or sitting around looking for an external savior. And that's the key point to it. And that's how the trickster teaches. That's how the trickster, helps us. And that's the paradox, of the situation. But that's the whole, the 360 degrees, the full ring, the full wisdom of the situation is in a standing to not just, again, not externally blame and not sit around waiting for no savior, but to, and hold yourself accountable, and again understand this holistic view of the trickster. Because yes, the trickster energy can present itself in a manner to, be persuasive, and be a trickster to, to be that, that external version of you doubting your intuition, but ultimately, again, like whatever, in most cases, whenever you got tricked in your life in so many ways, it was most likely because you ignored your intuition. Because your intuition is that, that connection to source energy that's more of, again, like that androgynous mother energy that understands the wholeness of being, and has that, that quote unquote insight, that helps for you to maneuver through, this experience. So again, you see how the trickster energy shows up as ultimately being a teacher and a helper. Yes, there is, again, the archons, also get into Abraxas, being like the 7 planets and the archons, again, the zodiac wheel, and being stuck in the cycle of reincarnation with the, the zodiac wheel as well. That's all connected. But ultimately, again, it's not blaming, oh, it was because it's because of my Capricorn tendencies is why I did that. Like, no, it's because of you. Don't blame the portal that you came through, for what you do. Oh, I got, it's because of all of my Scorpio alignments. So that's why I just kind of be having sex with anybody and I don't care, and I got into that situation, or I punched that person in the eye because I didn't trust them. That's my Scorpio energy. I was cold towards people because of my Capricorn energy. Oh, I was overly mothering due to that Virgo energy. That's that Virgo energy. That wasn't really me, Like, no, it's you. But again, ultimately, if you keep blaming and you start to see that it's also like school in the sense of like, certain beings within this realm who are religious and they have this whole religious perspective of like, oh, the devil, tempted me to do it, or it's because of the devil. Like, literally, when you really just sit with that, you like really see like, well, dang, if it's that much of the devil, then your God ain't seems to not have a lot of say so, as you say it, your God does, for your religion, because it seems like the quote unquote devil or scapegoat, seems to hold the keys, to everything. You know what I'm saying? Seems to be the custodian, in these parts. But, again, those beings are kind of like, again, like being in the younger grades, like say, for instance, kindergarten. Speaking of Gardens of Eden, it's like being in kindergarten in school, if they still may have that vibe of, and also that's not getting deep into the situation because, there is, of course, the deeper situation of like, there aren't a lot of true beings within this holographic expression of the being that we're inside. Because just like this body that we're in, this bodysuit is like a hologram. This world is like a hologram. So the being that we're inside, or the body that we're inside, not just this body, but then, the body that we're inside, or the trickster being that we're inside, as far as physically concerned, it is a hologram. You know what I'm saying? But I think I lost the notion of what I was gonna say with that. But ultimately, again, you see how that trickster energy ties into being a teacher, as well. And that's why I was talking about the grades in kindergarten. Oh, that's what I was going to speak on. Like, and the whole situation with like, NPCs and everybody not being real beings, and there's only a certain amount of real beings within the hologram or within this world. Of course, yes, there is some truth to that. It's a lot of truth to it. But even with that truth, or what I really want to say with that truth, it's still not to get into that space, because when you understand, like, again, holding yourself accountable, it's not to blame, like, or to judge, to be in that position of like judging, like, oh, they inferior because they're NPCs. When, and this was on the movie the show Westworld, where, like, say for instance, if an NPC come to you, a non-player character comes to you, and this how some people be, possibly just being a little too judgmental with the whole NPC thing. Here it is where you will trust, and pay attention to this. You will see quote unquote angel numbers or synchronistic numbers from an inanimate clock or watch or inanimate license plate or inanimate sign on a building, you'll take that as signs or omens from source energy, but then discredit everything that an NPC stands for, in the sense that that's not a real being, so they can't tell me nothing from source. But oh, look at this inanimate clock that says 222. You know, that's in alignment with source, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, you start to see like how just, again, like perspective, like, and how it helps when we share our different experiences and perspectives, you know what I'm saying? Because by me sharing this, you know, it's like, say for instance, again, like when we walking into a building, you know, and literally, because the zodiac wheel is considered to be like a clock. And, you know, like in like certain little movies or in the army or whatever, when it's like, hey, check your 6 o'clock. You know, your 6 o'clock will be like behind you, or your 12 o'clock, or look at your 3 o'clock, you know, to this side of you, or look at your 9, you know what I'm saying? But like, or like, and more so, hey, you catch the 3 o'clock, you know what I'm saying? You be looking this way, I'll be looking at the 9 o'clock that way, and you'll be looking at, you know, somebody else looking at the 6, catch my 6. All right, I got the 12, you know. And literally, like, we all standing right by each other, but because we're looking in different directions, we're seeing things differently. You know, still all in the same experience right by each other, but having a different perspective. You know what I'm saying? So that, again, that's also the value of, you know, sharing these different perspectives and, you know, analogies and having this awareness. But again, just bringing it back to the whole NPC thing, you know, it's like an NPC could drop a jewel on you. And in Westworld, you know, they had an android, you know, a robotic being within Westworld, you know, let some of the real humans know certain little gems about Westworld, you know, and where certain things was hidden at. Like, well, here it is, a human find out about a certain portal or a certain treasure within the realm from an NPC or an android, you know. And the only way you could have got that little insight is if you're, you know, non-judgmental towards, you know, beings in this experience, you know. It's like, by not judging, you were able to get that little tidbit of important information, because you didn't judge all people that's brown is this, or all people that's white is this, and say brown, white, for lack of a better word. You know, all people that's, you know, blue is this, or all people that's green is this, you know what I'm saying? It's like, man, don't judge, you know what I'm saying? Just use discernment. If you come across somebody that's look a certain way and they presented a certain energy, cool, but that, you know, it's just them that presented that certain energy. That doesn't mean like, all right, that one blue person lied to me, so now all blue people must be liars, you know what I'm saying? Again, that's how you could throw things off. So again, removing that judgment, you know, of looking at certain people as inferior, you know, not having an inferiority or superiority complex, you know, again, not judging, not going into the extreme of judgment, where it's like, especially through appearance, where it's like, all right, this one blue person tried to trick me, so all blue people must be trying to trick me, you know. It's like having that full circle of awareness, you know. But just simply, you know, this is, you know, a part, just a couple of minutes of, you know, in essence, sharing a story that took place, you know, again, though, time don't really exist, but from our perspective of what time is, a few minutes, explaining the awareness or the knowledge of something that took place over years, you know what I'm saying? But, ultimately, again, just getting a real, true, deeper understanding about the trickster energy, and the holistic picture of things, looking at the big picture, instead of just one part of the picture, getting the 360 degrees, and again, instead of getting 1 degree in college, or only getting 10 degrees in college, it's like you want to, because that's how they mimic, being in this world, again, the Saturn hats, Saturn karma, you going to school, and when you graduate, you get the little hat that represents Saturn, a cause and effect, and that's also a part of what, one name that was considered to be, again, the devil, or again, in connection with this trickster energy, is the Saturn energy, that goes into the connection with, you think of Baron Samedi, it's like, that's the Saturn energy in essence, and the karmic energy, of cause and effect, not all good, not all bad, but again, of course, when you go to, like, again, either worshiping things outside of you or blaming things outside of you, that's where things could get a little lost, and you have to bring yourself back into the center, because meditation, mediating, bringing yourself back into, in essence, like that, not taking sides, in essence. Now, of course, within this realm, to some extent, you're taking a side, but the side that you're taking is more so the holistic view of things, and not the holistic, truthful view of things. A lot of us are standing on the vibe of truth and sharing those truths, and sharing the full circle of truth, as much as possible from our perspective, because again, as a lot of, as many may say, hey, I'm not the only person that knows every single thing in creation and non-creation, I know every single thing, and you should only listen to me, like I'm the only person to come to for truth about this experience, it's like, no, like everybody got a little bit, of the pieces to the puzzle, word to the millennium puzzle and Yu-Gi-Oh. But just understanding that trickster archetype in full circle. And again, don't fall for the trick of externally blaming or looking for the external savior, because that's how you could trick yourself. You don't want to trick yourself like that. You know what I'm saying? And of course, as I said, don't let my calmness or like my delivery take away from the importance. I'm one of those people though that I don't feel like I be myself, in moments when I share. So I'm not gonna be like, like force myself to sound super serious about this, guys, when that's just not me and how I share. I have moments like that, and they genuinely arise though, or they genuinely are presented in videos when that's the genuine energy. But Right now, man, I'm grounding, chilling, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm in a very, calm and serene and, pretty stable state of being right now, you know what I'm saying? So the knowledge is gonna be presented in that manner. But as I say that again, like, the calmness and coolness, don't let that take away from the seriousness of it. The seriousness you should have around understanding this, right now is the past and the future. So the now moment is always very valuable. Because I realize, like, how sometimes it'd be like, hey, man, right now, this is really important. It's always important. It's just that it does get to a point, though, where certain things have like an urgency to it. It's like an urgency to not be, yes, you have fun in your experience to the best of your ability, but you have fun, again, the balance, you have fun while also, being aware of the seriousness that exists in this realm. The children, like, have fun, children, go play outside, but watch out for them cars, don't run in the street, because of the seriousness of, like, if, getting hit by a car. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to get hit by no car, but you still go play outside. I ain't saying always be scared of things that sting, but there are bumblebees and wasps outside, Don't stir that nest, It's like that again. And that's what you learn from being in this experience. So, with that being said, now is a vibrate. Not too far in the future, not too far in the past right now. Peace.